is hot outside. So, if you would like to create your own tank top that I just showed, stay tuned for this video. I would say if you are a confident beginner, this would be a great summer project. I'm going to go through materials, how to start the granny stitches in the center. As you expand, I will check in about like halfway, and then I'll show again the final product. So stay tuned if you want to make your own Pentagon tank top.
Supplies.
Now here are the supplies you're going to need for this project. Starting off, we have the 24/7 Cotton DK Lion brand yarn. I recommend for this tank top a lightweight cotton yarn, or another fiber like bamboo or hemp, something that is breathable for the summer and a lightweight. You can use a thicker yarn, but then you'll have bigger gaps between each cluster. So totally up to you what type of weight. Definitely recommend using a cotton or some other lightweight water absorbent fiber for the summer. And I recommend, if you want your project to look like mine, to use a lightweight yarn. Next, you're going to need your crochet hook. For this project, I am personally using a 3.75. Now, the Line brand cotton recommends a 4mm, but I want slightly tighter stitch clusters for this tank top to provide a little bit more coverage. Next, you're going to need a tapestry needle for weaving in your ends, and you're going to need stitch markers. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now if you're a beginner crocheter, I recommend having at least 6 stitch markers for each point of the pentagon, along with for your active stitch that you're working on. So in theory, it would go kind of like this shape for each corner, marking the point. If you're a more advanced crocheter, then you probably can easily recognize where the point is and don't need these stitch markers. So that is what you're going to need. You're going to need yarn, your crochet hook, tapestry needle, and 6 stitch markers. And then there is the optional for the chain or the like straps to use an I-cord maker. I personally have an I-cord maker machine, so that's what I am using to create the straps for the lacing of the tank top. But you can use a regular chain if you would like. I just find that I really love my I-cord machine and find I-cords are a little bit sturdier and look more professional. So the I-cord machine is entirely optional. If you know how to make an I-cord with just like the hook or needles, go you. That's amazing. I personally don't and use an I-cord machine. Entirely optional for this process. So this is the materials. Let's get started. We got our yarn, crochet hook, stitch markers. Let's get started. Let's see if I can get a center pole. I see the end right there. Now will it pull out nicely? Kind of. Not the worst center pole that I've experienced by far. All right, let's get this a little bit untangled at least. Now we're going to start
Round 1.
I made my slip knot. Now we're gonna chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to slide back into this first chain to make a circle. Now you can adjust how many chains you put into your circle depending on how big or small you want that center circle to be. We have this center circle. Next, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to make a double crochet into this circle. I'm going to do a double crochet, and then we're going to do another double crochet to create a cluster of 3. So we're going to again do this double crochet, and then I like to adjust it as I go just to get a clear idea of the clusters. So there's one cluster. Next we're going to chain 1 in between and then make another cluster of 3 double crochets. So here's the first double crochet, here's the second, and then the third. Now what you can do is put one of those stitch markers right there. That is the first point of the pentagon. And I hope that pentagon is the right shape word for it, or I'll sound very silly. So we're going to make another chain 1, and then we're going to double crochet our next cluster. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3. We've got our third cluster. Let's put that stitch marker in this gap like this. We're seeing the shape starting to form. So we're going to chain again, chain 1.
Then another cluster of 3 double crochet. Chain 1. Then another cluster of 3 double crochet.
As you go, but for the purposes of this video, I'm doing that to show the points. So we're going to put our next stitch marker right in here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to make another one. So we do our chain, and then we're going to put the double crochet. Oh no, double crochet. We're going to do again set of 3. So one more. And we're going to put our stitch marker right here, right in that bit. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to chain 1. Oh, chain 1. And connect that chain to this high point in the double crochet that we had done earlier. And it doesn't need to be perfect by any means. This is a very loosey-goosey top. And we're going to put our stitch marker in this loop like this. So this is what it looks like so far. We got our stitch markers, our 5 stitch markers. Then we have our extra stitch marker for the active loop that we're working on. Now we need to expand this, rotating out. So I'm going to take out this marker because we're going to
Round 2.
I'm editing the video. I thought it was funny. Made me giggle a little bit. Okay, back to the tutorial. Chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Double crochet into where that gap is. So we're going to do a double crochet right here. And we're going to do another cluster. We're going to do 2 double crochet clusters into this corner. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if it doesn't. But hopefully it does. So we've got our 3 cluster. Now we're going to chain again, chain 1, and then we are going to double crochet another cluster of 3 into that spot, to that little gap. So 1, 2, and then 3. And then we're going to replace that stitch marker right in that new corner. And the corners kind of stack on top of each other, if you can tell. It extends out like that. And you're going to keep on repeating this. So we're not going to chain because we are not at a corner. So we're going to go right into that double crochet cluster, right into that next stitch or a gap. Remember, we didn't chain between these clusters. We're about to chain between this next one. So we're going to do another chain for this corner. So we did our chain. Then we're going to double crochet into the rest of that corner. Another cluster of 3 double crochets. Yarn is all knotted. Okay. And then we're going to put that right back into that corner. You can see how it's starting to grow out. Let me untangle the yarn real quick. All right, so we're gonna take off this active loop, bring it back. We're gonna take off this next stitch marker, put that to the side, and we're not going to chain in between. We are going to simply go right into that next double crochet cluster. So we're gonna keep on double crocheting. We're gonna make a set of 3. And then we're going to chain 1 because this is a corner, and then we're going to double crochet the next cluster of 3. And you'll see it's very repetitive. It's very mindless, very repetitive, easy peasy summer project. Oh, keeps on getting caught. That's part of, I don't love using stitch markers while I'm going because they get caught. So we're going to put that stitch marker right back. This is good just for if you need that visual reminder of where the corners are, especially in the beginning. Now we're going to take off the next stitch marker and double crochet into this next corner, not chaining in between the corners, but chaining at the corners in between the clusters. So here we go. Now we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do the next cluster. Okay, replace that stitch marker right here. And then this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We're going to take out that stitch marker now. Going to double crochet right into the corner. We're not chaining in between the corners. So we're going to do our first cluster. So we did that cluster. Now we're going to chain 1. There we go, chain 1. And do 2 double crochets into this next space because we did the chain 4, and that creates the height of one of the double crochets. So we're going to go right into this one right here. Going to chain right into that. Going to replace our corner. And then this is what it looks like so far. Now we're going to start that process again, starting with a chain 3. So
Round 3.
Going to 1, 2, 3, and then double crochet right into there, right into that next open space. And then we're going to do it again. Okay, and repeat that process over and over and over and over. We're going to take out the stitch marker. Again, no chaining in between each cluster. And then we're going to do our next cluster of double crochets into this next corner, like this. Going to do our chain in between, and then going to add the next set of double crochets. Woohoo! Like this. And then we're going to add our last one. We're going to add back that stitch marker. Again, not necessary, but if you are a beginner especially, I recommend it to keep track of where your corners are. So we're not going into a corner, which means we're not chaining in between, which means we're just going to do this cluster of 3 double crochets into this space. You can see the holes are large enough where
Me making literally no sense.
what's the word? There's going to be clusters and there's going to be holes. And you can adjust the size of the holes by increasing the chains in between each cluster. I'm doing
Adding another cluster of 3 double crochet.
But if you want it to be a larger hole, you can increase the number of chains in between each cluster.
Completely
of
forgetting
double crochets.
I am doing a
I've played around a lot
tutorial.
with granny squares and the granny stitch.
Focus.
To make fun different shapes like this pentagon.
Please.
I was working on a cherry blossom inspired tank top this shape, and someone had commented asking for a tutorial.
Just zooting
okay,
through.
That's cool, do that. So here we are. So now that I've blabbed away, we are going to replace that stitch marker at this back. And here we go. We got quite a bit. You can see it starting to take shape, and you can see that every corner, as you grow the granny pentagon, there's longer between each corner. And we're not going to chain into this next one. We're just going to double crochet right into it.
Thank goodness.
And you're just going to keep on going and going until it is the size that you want.
Back to zooting.
So here we go. Next we're going to take the stitch marker out, double crochet into that corner. We're going to make that next cluster. But this is kind of, I would say, would it be like made to measure? I'm not sure, because I honestly just hold up the piece against my body and hope for the best. And then we're going to chain. And then we're going to crochet back in to create this corner. And I'm not going to show every single row that I do. I'm just showing the beginning ones, and then I'll probably check in around the middle and then check in again at the end to show how I finish it off. But it's super easy to finish. There's literally only 2 ends to weave in. 2 ends, not including the I-cord. That doesn't count. But 2 ends to weave in, not bad. So we put the stitch marker back, and we're going to keep on going. I will actually check in with you guys at the end of this row to show how I finish the row and then move on to the next one. See you in a sec. Alright, we are almost finished the 3rd round. Going to close up this round, going into the highest point of the double crochet that you created at the start of the round. Now this doesn't need to be perfect, just about where you would like it to be. Now we're going to basically repeat that process with alternating between 3 or 4 chains at the start of every round. Now for this next round, it's going to be 4.
Round 4.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to go into the next open space with a double crochet, a cluster of 3. And then you keep on going round and around, changing out your stitch markers for every new corner. And this will keep on expanding until the size that you want. And I will be checking in again, maybe like halfway through. I feel like I've hopefully done enough rounds in the beginning where you understand how to continue the process. We got our stitch markers on every corner with one chain in between each corner cluster and no chains in between the side clusters, if that makes sense. All right, I will see ya when I make some more progress. Happy crafting. All right, so I have finished the Pentagon shape. I made it a little bit more coverage, I think, than the cherry blossom one, but I literally just like put it up against my body like this and kind of guess of like, okay, how much coverage do I want? And then that's when I stop making the shape, because you're gonna lace up the sides. This is what mine looks like. I'm going to count the rows. Editing self, remember, please remember to put the rows somewhere on the screen.
Editing self did
The
not
amount
count the
that
rows.
I did extending out. And I will also try and remember to put my measurements. I think it looks pretty good. Next, oh, and also, this is how much yarn I have left. This is how much of, this is the yarn that I got. And this is how much have I left. This is how much I have left. All right. Body, and it does stretch a little bit. I think because of the yarn and hook size combo I did, it does stretch a little bit. Next is to make the I-cord, where I just make one really long one that I will pin at the top and then lace at the stitch marker points on the side, and then sometimes I'll even add another in between for the lace up, but I don't add like eyelet holes. They just kind of go in with the corners, if that makes sense. But I'm gonna whip out my I-cord machine and hope that there's enough to make a long enough cord, and then editing the video, which I have not started. Oops, it'll be fine. I'm gonna cut a lot of this out. Jesus. So I finished the I-cord. I still have the stitch markers in my Pentagon. To make sure I at least get these points laced, and I'm going to actually put stitch marker at the bottom points that I also would like to lace. And it's not any official form of measurement. I'm literally just folding it in half along the middle, what I think is the middle of two of the points, and then that will go like this. So I need to do the midpoint on this side also in order to lace it up correctly, or at least the way that I plan on doing it. My way is by no means the only or like correct way. I'm just messing around and seeing what happens with yarn. Okay, so you can tell it'll be laced at those points. All right, time to lace it, and then final reveal. Woo! I just recorded some bits I might use for like YouTube shorts, and they feel very silly. I don't know if it's like why, but I just felt very silly. All right, I'm getting to lacing. I'm gonna finish this. All right, I finished up the lacing and realized I should have measured the length of the I-cord before it looked, oh Jesus, it's a mess. It looks kind of crazy, but I laced it. And yeah, I realized during actually that I should have measured how long the I-cord is before I laced it. Oopsies.
It turned out to a length of about 10 feet and 10 inches.
I kind of want to just try it on now. Maybe. Final reveal.
Totally the same day.
All right. This is the tank top. And I am wearing boot covers underneath this. This is what it looks like. Need some adjustments. It's a little finicky. That's a little bit better. This is the skirt that I decided to pair it with. Mari had a low rise here in the middle of the heat wave, so okay, I've done enough frolicking outside. That's what you're gonna get. So final thoughts, remarks about this pattern or video. So as you can see, I am running into a little bit of a construction issue with this top. I keep on having to tighten the sides, but then it doesn't quite line up exactly how I'd want. Like, it kind of lines up, but then when I move, I think because of how I laced it up in the back, I think because of this style of lacing, it makes the top move and then it falls when I move. Now, luckily, I'm wearing pasties. But if you weren't, well, you would see your nip anyway. But it does tend to slide down a little bit. I think I just need to lace it differently, but I don't feel like relacing it now. I'm calling it a Pentagon tank top. Now, I don't think it is like groundbreaking in the crochet community by any means. I think it's very basic, very simple, and I want to say that I don't know if I consider this necessarily a tutorial. This is the first time I'm trying to make a tutorial-esque thing. So please, in the comments, let me know if there are parts that are confusing, if the parts that can be fixed, all that fun stuff. Would love your feedback on how, and let me know how your own tank tops went. If you decide to make your own, leave a comment. Let me know maybe what you were working on during this video, if you just put it on in the background and wanted to work on something else. So